Welcome to MatNum 2024, December 2024, part 2. So, like every month, we're going to look at computational photography using my apps and mainly look at QR codes that will give you those virtual film stocks with examples if you want to use them for your own your own photographic practice. So, first, contact sheet coming from Vika, one of those iOS apps that I programmed with my own photographic computational photography engine. I thought this one was interesting. So it's basically D Naas and KDC 100N. The parameters are stored inside the QR code. So if you scan them and load them into your apps, you'll get that result. As you can see on the contact sheet, that's what I find interesting with the contact sheet. You see also the bad stuff, the missed photos and everything. It's a good way for you to archive, even if you throw away the bad pictures, the full-scale bad pictures. It's a good way to also, I think, edit your series. And here's a picture on the right I thought was interesting. It's the back room of a store, and I like the lights, I like the plant, I like the way your site is attracted to this sort of door, which we don't see through. We kind of have a glimpse, but we don't know what's going on in the store. Kind of like the construction. I like the treatment, not very contrasty. The blacks are not really black, the whites are not really white. Again, 2 pictures with the same program, the same virtual film stock. Sometimes the best subject is my own feet. So here, for example, on the left is my feet, me trying to get out of a bus. But I like the composition. Or right, that's a really interestingly clad future passenger of a bus at the bus stop. I thought the picture was interesting and the treatment worked pretty well in that case. The treatment that worked also pretty well, I think, for landscapes. As you can see on the left, that's in Selfoss. The way the sky is rendered, the mountains, the house, the frozen river in front. Or on the right, that's near Grindavík, near the international airport of Keflavik. All of this is in Iceland, southwest of Iceland. I thought the rendering was interesting. A rendering really of virtual film stock I will continue using. And that's what it does on, for example, skies on the left. It tends to create those weird contours on low contrast portions of your image. Or on the right, that's simply patterns of snow on the sidewalk and my feet again, here with a very wide angle, which I thought made this film stock quite shine. You saw that on the contact sheet, there's a lot of missed shots, but overall, I was pretty happy with this preset. Here, another contact sheet, way more stylized, mixing Crunchy and FJ-IX Mini. Again, the parameters are inside the QR code if you want to use them. Some of the results I really liked. Here's the contact sheet shows how boring that film actually was. In respect to what I do usually. I wasn't very satisfied by the rate of good shots with this film, but I kind of found interesting the results. And here on the left, that's during a contemporary art performance by an artist named Claire M.A., inside an apartment. There's actually a pianist in the piano we kind of don't see, which I kind of liked on this photo. They're in the middle of the picture. If you look at it really intensely, you might see it. I like the way it rendered. Crunchy tends to do this weird color palettes and zones. Here again, 2 pictures. The performance on the left, that's one of the music schools in Reykjavik. It's kind of hard to see all the details of the musicians, but I think the overall rendering, very stylized, very kind of bicolor, worked pretty well. Or on the right, simply with this car on front of some shops. It moves. It's kind of blurry. There's some motion blur. But I like the rendering. I like the overall rendering of this virtual film stock. 2 more examples. On the left, that's a frozen river. Hard to know what it is if you don't. That's what I'm telling you. But sometimes you want that kind of treatment to stylize the work you do, and you want to create some kind of mystery visually. And I think that's a good mix. Sometimes, it's often on low contrast situation that you have that, weirdly. Sometimes you do have something like on the right where the color palette is kind of diminished, but Not as much stylization with the grass and rocks here on the ground. That's an example of what comes out of this film stock sometimes. And sometimes kind of slightly more contrasty and stylized, like those details of the usual they're not touristy, but historical houses in the center of Reykjavik with those tin walls, those undulated corrugated steel tin walls. I thought worked pretty well also for that kind of photography. Or here again on the left, that's the Grindavík train station in Geneva in Switzerland, so west of Switzerland. Here we have this sort of bicolor rendering of the picture. Or on the right, something more subtle, this parking entrance. It's probably in Switzerland, but not sure because I don't see snow, so it's probably in Switzerland, but really not sure about that. But yeah, I thought this film might be interesting for you if you want to use it, and the QR code is at the beginning, of course. Let's go to the random choices of this second part of MatNum for December. Going through those kind of boring pictures, sometimes that come out of your phone. Here are the two pictures coming out of the sensor. Adding the treatment will give it the small touch that makes everything more interesting, I believe. Here, reframing it becomes more abstract. It wasn't very explicit originally in any case, but creating more abstractness, more graphic, bringing more graphic elements sometimes can make your picture more interesting. And here are the QR codes if you want to use those. Again, I'm going to go a little bit like this for the rest of this video. The pictures as they came out of the sensor, this parking lot with those colors on the left, or this residential building in the snow, that's also in Iceland. Adding the treatment will bring something positive, I believe. Of course, my work is based on that kind of treatment, one part of my work. That's why I coded those algorithms and those apps, but I do think the final result can be more interesting, and can be really more interesting if you do series with the same treatment, as we've seen with the contact sheet before. And yeah, so here, it's also to give you ideas or simply give you film stocks that I find interesting for your own practice. Here are the QR codes. Here I'm starting with one picture. That's the bonfire on New Year's Eve in Reykjavik. That's in the west neighborhood, Vesturberg, in Reykjavik. And that's using a new iPhone. I've been, for those who've been following, I've been using mainly the iPhone 12 Pro Max as my main test device. But it kind of broke on me. So I had to get something else. And here I got a 16 Pro, yeah, the 15 Pro. And yeah, the sensor is really good. It's not revolutionary. I think the lenses actually, I'm not that satisfied with the tele photo enlargement. I don't really care about the 5 times enlargement, but actually I cared about the 2 times enlargement. And here we just have this sort of wide angle, super wide angle, and way too tele lens, and its interpolation in between. Not very satisfied, but yeah, here with the treatment, the picture in itself was kind of interesting, I believe, but reframing it and using filters like I do with my apps, I think gives it a certain twist. Here in this first case, making it more monochromatic, less contrasty, but you can focus a little bit more on the composition. And I thought that was an interesting way of reworking the picture, even so it's kind of coming out of at the time of the capture. Also, you hear, so that was Kainswo. Here it's Nezeska that preserves a bit of the contrast, makes it more dynamic, fiery, and saturated, whereas the fire takes a bigger place. I thought here could be another way of telling the story, the photographic story, or simply adding more artifacts, like with an insaturator like Ondo. You will have different colors coming out, and it's going to sort of overwhelm you with those weird zone artifacts, kind of circular, but it kind of works differently, and I think it's interesting. hopefully those QR codes will let you have some fun. Or here, a picture simply of a landscape of a frozen river. The sky is kind of bland. Not much going on here. It's an interesting scene, but the photo is not that, I think, explicit in telling a story. Adding the treatment, reframing, here's the example, will give it a touch. The sky was kind of bland. Here it kind of created more dynamic range and more contrast in the patterns in the sky. And I think that's pretty good for the picture. It gives it some movement. That's semi. It was QQ Blued 140 as a final treatment. You might find it fun for your own practice. Or again here, landscapes. The basic pictures coming out of the sensor. On the left, that's like the picture before, that's in Selfoss, southwest of Iceland. And on the right, that's near the Keflavik International Airport, at the bottom, really extreme southwest of Iceland. And the treatment gives those kind of boring pictures a little bit more of meat to chew on and to look at. And yeah, here are two different examples, the QR codes. Maybe we can try another random program on the right, maybe make it less transformed. So here's softer, as you can see, that's Bomber Baba. Here's the QR code with KDADAV 200 on the same original picture. Thought it was interesting. Also, sometimes I've talked about that in the previous episodes, in concert or social situations. Here, for example, that's Björk sharing us a DJ set at Smekleza in Reykjavik. There's another DJ sitting on the window a little bit further down. Really nice place, Smekleza in center of Reykjavik. The picture here is kind of funny, but yeah, it's not really thought. It's the composition's kind of weak. Reworking these kinds of pictures with filters and reframing, stylizing a little bit more can give something more contrasty like this, which could become interesting, could reflect a little bit more of the feeling of the evening. Or if you go with another slightly different treatment here with Ondo, which adds those kind of zones, but preserving a little bit more of the various colors of the night, I think it gets interesting. I think you can do something. And I think it's also a good way of working with random mode gives you ideas, and then you can work with series if you want, using the same QR code. Here are the QR codes. Let's go for maybe last two pictures. Here are the pictures coming out of the phone. Both are in Geneva in Switzerland. Kind of flat pictures. On the left, that's the Av River, and the right, that's a Cathédrale Saint-Pierre in center, old town of Geneva. Adding the treatment, in that case, it's the same insaturator, Ondo, but very different film radiators. You will get something kind of interesting, more interesting than the originals. Of course, you don't have all the detail. Of course, you don't have the same resolution, you don't decipher as well. I mean, as well as it's kind of subjective. It's not for the same reasons that you share that kind of pictures. But I thought it was two examples that made it interesting to see how you can add meat and change the reading of your pictures simply by reworking them in that way. Here are the QR codes. As usual, don't hesitate. Feedbacks, comments, questions, suggestions. Always open to it and happy to hear from you. And hopefully that was a bit entertaining and you'll be able to use some of those QR codes for your own practice. And catch you next time.